Hello, hello. I'm not sure if I'm on. Hello! Hello, 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 hello. Good to see you guys. Again, this is Laura Brickson. I'm the principal of St. Bernard School here in Thief River Falls, Minnesota. Minnesota. It is Tuesday, April 7th, 2020. And we are here and about to start St. Bernard's Books with Mrs. Brickson. And I know we're a teeny bit early. Again, I'm doing a new version here, everyone. And so if you could please, as soon as you come on, please say hello so I know that who's here. Before it used to pop up, when people would come, but if you could do that, that would be great. Oh, get out of there. Okay. No one's on here yet, Grace.
That's sad.
Okay. Well, anyway, please say hello when you come on. It takes a little bit, takes a minute or two for people coming in, but you can come here and you can kind of come here and you can take a look. So here we have Grace. Get your head in there. Here we go. Get your head in there, Grace. So we'll hopefully we can see if other people come in. Right. Whoops. Please come and say hello. Oh, Axel's on.
Okay.
Axel, yeah. And we have Rico's, Chico, and Sophia, I think are on. Thank you for saying hi. And so you can put your head in here, Grace. There's Grace. Grace is actually taking some pictures. Show her your camera.
Yeah. Wait, shoot.
There's a camera. You want to tell them what you're doing?
This is for a photography class, and I'm supposed to take shots of various things and how Corona is affecting people's day-to-day lives. And I was going to give a picture of Mom reading a book to you guys.
Yes. And so,
Wait.
Mrs. Zare, look at Mrs. Zare almost said good morning. Good afternoon.
It's always
good afternoon.
It's always morning somewhere.
It's morning somewhere. Yeah. And in fact, it looks like morning. My hair is wet. It is wet. I was on all morning and on the computer all morning. And parents, if you're on there watching as well, you can probably have noticed you got some emails from me. Yeah, I'm trying to get the re-enrollment up and going online. So a lot going on. Whoops. Yeah, there's a new interface here for Facebook. And so I'm trying my best. Interface. Oh, it's an interface for Facebook.
Got him.
Grace, why don't you come and tell them a little bit about what you're doing, what you've been doing? What's your program?
My program is Communication, Art, and Design at Alexandria Tech in Alexandria, Minnesota.
Yeah. Okay. And what kind of things do you want to do? What kind of classes are you taking?
I'm taking various classes. There's an illustration class, like a website design class. There's a photography class. So the camera's the webcam's mirrored, and I don't know which way is which.
I know it is mirrored.
It's so weird.
It drives me crazy when it's mirrored like that. Looks mirrored to us, but I think for you guys, if I show this up like this, do the word holes? Does it look normal to you?
There's a salo.
Or does it say salo? Does it? I think we've talked about this before. Do the words look normal to you? Just kind of let me know.
By Rakasiol.
Yes. So anyway, Mrs. Zare says cool.
Oh, dude.
Yes. Hey. Thanks. And but yeah, so we've been busy, and Grace is taking a bunch of pictures how the virus has affected life. Yeah, we're famous. We're famous. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get started. So I don't know. You might see Grace pop in and out. Might not, in case she wants to take some pictures of this way. I don't know. But anyway, let us begin with our. Oh, hold on. Yeah, give me a second here, guys. Oh, I'm trying. I swear. At least I'm trying. Oh, hold on. Of course, you know what happened? An ad. Sorry. Here we go. We can get started. You can dance along with us. Make. Difference.
Make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go
singing.
Alrighty. Yes.
That song is unironically great.
Unironically great?
Yeah, it slaps. It's fun
It
to
slaps.
Yeah, it's fun to dance to, okay?
The song slaps.
It does.
It slaps.
It does.
Okay. Anyway, the song slaps.
It's good.
I have a weird daughter, but that's okay. She takes after her father and me.
And you.
And me. Anyway, so let's continue. So our joke for today, Grace, you can join us with the joke for today. Come here. Okay. Do that.
Why are cats bad storytellers?
Just wait. Say it again, really slow.
Why are cats bad storytellers?
Why are cats bad storytellers? Why, Grace?
Shoot. I lost the punchline. Because they only have one tail.
They only have one tail. Get that? They only have one tail. Storyteller's tail. Tail. Tale. Alrighty. Thank you, Grace.
No problem.
Okay, so she's gonna do her thing now.
I do my thing, and then I'm gonna zip.
Then she's gonna zip and zap, and apparently the song slaps. Mrs. DeMars likes that. Mrs. Dahlman. Oh, Axel.
What?
Axel gave us the face.
Aww. Tough crowd.
Okay. So here we are. We're moving along. And remember, the warden was not a very nice person. And she was doing, he thought he might have found something, but then he got punished because he didn't really steal the sunflower seeds. Stanley didn't really steal the sunflower seeds. Other people did, but he took the blame. So he went to, and that's when, she kind of showed him the nail polish, that had the rattlesnake venom in it. So anyway, here we go. Chapter 21. It was a long walk back to his hole. Stanley looked through the haze of the heat and the dirt at the other boys, lowering and raising their shovels. Group D was the furthest away. He realized that once again he would be digging long after everyone else had quit. He hoped he'd finish before Mr. Sir recovered. He didn't want to be out there alone with Mr. Sir. He won't die, the warden said, unfortunately for you. Walking across the desolate wasteland, Stanley thought about his great-great-grandfather. Not the pig stealer, but the pig stealer's son, the one who was robbed by Kissing Kate Barlow. He tried to imagine how he must have felt after Kissing Kate had left him stranded in the desert. It probably wasn't a whole lot different from the way that he himself felt now. Kate Barlow had left his great-grandfather to face the hot, barren desert. The warden left Stanley to face Mr. Sir. Somehow his great-grandfather had survived for 17 days before he was rescued by a couple of rattlesnake hunters. He was insane when they found him. When he was asked how he had lived so long, he said, "Found refuge on God's thumb." He spent nearly a month in the hospital. He ended up marrying one of the nurses. Nobody ever knew what he meant by God's thumb, including himself. Stanley heard a twitching sound. Psst. He stopped mid-step with one foot still in the air. A rattlesnake lay coiled beneath his foot. Its tail was pointed upward, rattling. Psst. Wait. Stanley backed his leg away and then turned and ran. The rattlesnake didn't chase after him. It rattled its tail to warn him to stay away. "Thanks for the warning," Stanley whispered as his heart pounded. The rattlesnake would have been a lot more dangerous if it didn't have a rattle. "Hey, caveman," called Armpit, "you're still alive." "What'd the warden say?" asked Magnet. "What'd you tell her?" said Magnet. "I told her I stole the seeds," said Stanley. "Good going," said Magnet. "What'd she do?" "Oh, I heard the wrong voice." "Good going," said Magnet. "What'd she do?" said Zigzag. Stanley shrugged one shoulder. "Nothing. She got mad at Mr. Sir for bothering her." He didn't feel like going into the details. If he didn't talk about it, then maybe it didn't happen. He went over to his hole, and to his surprise, it It was nearly finished. He stared at it amazed. It didn't make sense. Or perhaps it did. He smiled. Since he had taken the blame for the sunflower seeds, he realized the other boys had dug the hole for him. Hey, thanks, he said. Well, don't look at me, said X-Ray. Confused, Stanley looked around. From Magnet to Armpit to Zigzag to Squid, none of them took credit for it. Then he turned to Zero, who had been quietly digging in a hole since Stanley's return. Zero's hole was smaller than all the others. Do you remember from before? Zero was the one who could dig holes the fastest. And he was one who also didn't really talk and he couldn't read. So it'd be interesting. It looked like Zero dug the hole. Whoop, I almost dropped my water. Sorry. Chapter 22. Oh, don't have to say sorry for the face, Axel. You're okay. I'm just laughing. It was a groaner joke. You don't have to say sorry for the face. Goodness gracious. Chapter 22. Stanley was the first one finished. He spat in his hole and then showered and changed into his cleaner set of clothes. It had been 3 days since laundry was done, so even his clean set was dirty and smelly. Tomorrow, these would become his work clothes and his other set would be washed. He could think of no reason why Zero would dig his hole for him. Zero didn't even get any of the sunflower seeds. I guess he likes to dig holes, said Armpit. He's a mole, Zigzag had said. I think he eats dirt. Moles don't eat dirt, X-Ray had pointed out. Worms eat dirt. Hey, Zero, Squid had asked, are you a mole or a worm? Zero said nothing. Stanley never even thanked him, but now he sat in his cot and waited for Zero to return from the shower room. Thanks, he said to Zero as he entered through the tent flap. Zero glanced at him and then went over to the crates where he deposited his dirty clothes and his towels. Why did you help me? Zero turned around. You didn't steal the sunflower seeds, he said. So neither did you. Zero stared at him. His eyes seemed to expand, and it seemed like Zero was looking right through him. You didn't steal the sneakers, he said. Stanley said nothing. He watched Zero walk out of the tent. If anybody had X-ray vision, it was Zero. Wait, he cried and hurried after him. Zero had stopped just outside the tent. Stanley almost ran into him. I'll try to teach you to read if you want, Stanley offered. I don't know if I know how to teach, but I'm not that worn out today since you dug a lot in my hole. A big smile spread across Zero's face. They returned to the tent where they're less likely to be bothered. Stanley got his box of stationery and a pen out of its crate. They sat on the ground. Do you know the alphabet? Stanley asked. For a second, he thought he saw a flash of defiance in Zero's eyes, but then it passed. I think I know some of it, he said. A, B, C, D. Keep going, said Stanley. Zero's eyes looked upward. E, F, said Stanley. G, said Zero. He blew some air from the side of his mouth. H-I-K-P. H-I-J-K-L, Stanley said. That's right, said Zero. I've heard it before. I don't have it memorized exactly. That's all right, said Stanley. Here, I'll say the whole thing just to kind of refresh your memory, and then you can try it. He recited the alphabet to Zero, and then Zero repeated it back without a single mistake. Not bad for a kid who had never seen Sesame Street. Well, I heard it before somewhere, Zero said, trying to act like it was nothing, but his big smile gave it away. The next step was harder. Stanley had to figure out how to teach him to recognize each letter. He gave Zero a piece of paper, and he took a piece for himself. I guess we'll start with A. He printed a capital A and then Zero copied it on his sheet of paper. The paper wasn't lined, which made it more difficult. But Zero's A's weren't bad, just a little big. Stanley told him he needed to write smaller, or else they're going to run out of paper real quick. Zero printed it smaller. Actually, there are 2 ways to write each letter, Stanley said, as he realized this was going to be even harder than he thought. That's a capital A, but usually you'll see a small a. You only have capitals at the beginning of a word, and only if it's a sentence or if it's a proper noun like a name. Zero nodded as if he understood, but Stanley knew he had made very little sense. He printed a lowercase a, and Zero copied it. So there are 52, said Zero. Stanley didn't know what he was talking about. Instead of 26 letters, there's really 52. Stanley looked at him surprised. I guess that's right. How did you figure that out? Zero said nothing. Did you add? Zero said nothing. Did you multiply? That's just how many there are, Zero said. Stanley raised and lowered one shoulder. He didn't even know Zero knew there were 26 in the first place. Did he count them as he recited them? He had Zero write a few more upper and lowercase a's, and then he moved to capital B. This was going to take a long time, he realized. You can teach me 10 letters a day, suggested Zero. 5 capitals and 5 smalls. After 5 days, I'll know them all. Except on the last day, I'll have to do 12. 6 capitals and 6 smalls. Again, Stanley stared at him, amazed at what he was able to figure all that out. Stanley must have thought he was staring for a different reason. Zero must have thought he was staring at him for a different reason, because he said, I'll dig part of your hole every day. I can dig for about an hour, and then you can teach me for an hour. And since I dig faster anyway, our holes will get done about the same time, and I won't have to wait for you. Oh, okay, said Stanley. As Zero was printing his B's, Stanley asked him how he figured out it would take 5 days. Did you multiply? Did you divide? That's just what it is, Zero said. Well, that's good math, said Stanley. I'm not stupid, said Zero. I know everybody thinks I am. I just don't like answering their questions. Later that night, as he lay in his cot, Stanley reconsidered the deal he made with Zero. Getting a break every day would be a relief, but he knew X-Ray wouldn't like it. He wondered if there might be some way that Zero would agree to dig part of X-Ray's hole, too. But then, why should he? I'm the one teaching Zero, and I need the break, so I'll have the energy to teach him. I'm the one who took it to blame for the sunflower seeds, and I'm the one that Mr. Sir's mad at. He closed his eyes, and the images from the warden's cabin floated inside of his head. Her red fingernails, Mr. Sir writhing on the floor, her flowered makeup kit. He opened his eyes. He suddenly realized where he had seen the gold tube before. He had seen it in his mother's bathroom. He had seen it again in the warden's cabin. It was half of a lipstick container. KB. See, that's what it looked like. KB! He felt a jolt of astonishment. His mouth silently formed the name Kate Barlow, as he wondered out loud if it really could have belonged to the kissing outlaw. Diddle-oo, diddle-oo, diddle-oo. Back in time. 110 years ago, Green Lake was the largest lake in Texas. It was full of clear, cool water, and it sparkled like a giant emerald in the sun. It was especially beautiful in the spring, when the peach trees, which lined the shore, bloomed with pink and rose-colored blossoms. There was always a town picnic on the 4th of July. They played games, dance, and sing, and swim in the lake to keep cool. Prizes were awarded for the best peach pie and peach jam. A special prize was given every year to Miss Catherine Barlow for her fabulous spiced peaches. No one else even tried to make spiced peaches because they knew none could be as delicious as hers. Every summer, Miss Catherine would pick bushels of peaches and preserved them in jars with cinnamon and cloves and nutmegs and other spices that she kept a secret. The jarred peaches would last all winter. They probably would have lasted a lot longer than that, but they were always eaten by the end of the winter. It was said that Green Lake was heaven on earth, and that Miss Catherine's spiced peaches were food for the angels. Catherine Barlow was in the town's only school teacher. She taught in the old one-room schoolhouse. It was old even then. The roof leaked, the windows wouldn't open, the door hung crooked on its bent hinges. She was a wonderful teacher, full of knowledge and full of life. The children loved her. She taught classes in the evening for adults, and many of the adults loved her as well. She was very pretty. Her classes were often full of young men who were a lot more interested in the teacher than they were in getting an education. All they ever got was an education. One such man was Trout Walker. His real name was Charles Walker, but everyone called him Trout because his 2 feet smelled like a couple of dead fish. This wasn't entirely Trout's fault. He had incurable foot fungus. In fact, it was the same foot fungus that 110 years later would afflict the famous ball player Clyde Livingston. But at least Clyde Livingston showered every day. "I take a bath every Sunday morning," Trout would brag, "whether I need it or not." Most everyone in the town of Green Lake expected Miss Catherine to marry Trout Walker. He was son of the richest man in the county. His family owned most of the peach trees and all of the land on the east side of the lake. Trout often showed up at night school, but he never paid attention. He talked in class and was disrespectful to the students around him, and he was loud and stupid. A lot of the men were not as educated, but that didn't bother Miss Catherine. She knew they spent most of their lives working on farms and ranches and hadn't had much schooling. That was why she was here, to teach them. But Trout didn't want to learn. He seemed to be proud of his stupidity. "How'd you like to take a ride on my boat this Saturday?" he asked her one evening after class. "No, thank you," said Miss Catherine. "I got a brand new boat," he said. "You won't even have to row it." "Yes, I know," said Miss Catherine. Everyone in town had seen and heard the Walkers' new boat. It made a horrible loud noise and spewed ugly black smoke all over the beautiful lake. Trout had always gotten what he wanted. He found it hard to believe that Miss Catherine had turned him down. He pointed his finger at her and said, "No one ever says no to Charles Walker." "I believe I just did," Miss Catherine said. Back to the future. Stanley was half asleep as he got in line for breakfast, but the sight of Mr. Sir awakened him. The left side of Mr. Sir's face had swollen to the size of half a cantaloupe. There were 3 dark purple jagged lines running down his cheek where the warden had scratched him. The other boys in Stanley's tent had obviously seen Mr. Sir as well, but they had the good sense to not say anything. Stanley put a carton of juice in a plastic spoon on his tray. He kept his eyes down, and he hardly breathed as Mr. Sir ladled some oatmeal-like stuff in his bowl. He brought his chair to the table. Behind him, a boy from one of the other tents said, "Hey, what happened to your face?" There was a crash. Stanley turned to see Mr. Sir holding the boy's head against the oatmeal pot. "Is there something wrong with my face?" The boy tried to speak but couldn't. Mr. Sir had him by the throat. "Did anybody see anything wrong with my face?" he asked Mr. Sir. Continued to choke the boy. Nobody said anything. Mr. Sir let the boy go. He banged his head against the side of the table and he fell to the ground. Mr. Sir stood over him and said, "How does my face look now?" A gurgling sound came out of the boy's mouth and he managed to gasp the word, "Fine." "I'm kind of handsome, don't you think?" "Yes, Mr. Sir." Out on the lake, the other boys asked Stanley what he knew about Mr. Sir's face, but he just shrugged and dug his hole. If he didn't talk about it, maybe it would go away. He worked as hard as fast as he could, not trying to pace himself. He just wanted to get off the lake and away from Mr. Sir as soon as possible. Besides, he knew he'd get a break. "Whenever you're ready, just let me know," Zero had said. The first time the water truck came by, it was driven by Mr. Pedansky. The second time, Mr. Sir was driving. No one said anything except, "Thank you, Mr. Sir," as he filled each canteen. No one even dared to look at his grotesque face. As Stanley waited, he ran his tongue over the roof of his mouth beside his cheeks. His mouth was as dry, as parched as the lake. The bright sun reflected off the side mirror of the truck, and Stanley had to shield his eyes with his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Sir," said Magnet as he took his canteen from him. "You thirsty, caveman?" said Mr. Sir. "Yes, Mr. Sir," Stanley said, handing his canteen to him. Mr. Sir opened the nozzle, and the water flowed out of the tank, but it did not go into Stanley's canteen. Instead, he held the canteen right next to the stream of water. Stanley watched the water spatter on the dirt, where it was quickly absorbed by the thirsty ground. Mr. Sir let the water run for about 30 seconds, and then he stopped. "You want more?" he said. Stanley didn't say anything. Mr. Sir turned the water back on, and again Stanley watched it pour into the dirt. "That should be plenty." And he handed Stanley his empty canteen. Stanley stared at the dark spot in the ground, which quickly shrank before his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Sir," he said. There was a doctor in the town of Green Lake 110 years ago. His name was Dr. Hawthorne, and whenever people got sick, they would go and see Doc Hawthorne. But they'd also go see Sam, the onion man. "Onions, sweet, fresh onions," Sam would call as he and his donkey, Mary Lou, walked up and down the dirt roads of Green Lake. Mary Lou pulled a cart full of onions. Sam's onion field was somewhere on the other side of the lake. Once or twice a week, he would roll across the lake, pick a new batch, and fill the cart. Sam had big, strong arms, but it would still take him all day to roll across the lake and another day for him to return. Most of the time, he would leave Mary Lou in a shed, which the walkers let him use at no charge. And sometimes he would take Mary Lou on his boat with him. Sam claimed that Mary Lou was almost 50 years old, which was and still is extraordinarily old for a donkey. "She eats nothing but raw onions," Sam would say, holding up a white onion between his dark fingers. "It's nature's magic vegetable. If a person ate nothing but raw onions, he could live to be 200 years old." Sam was not much older than 20, so nobody quite was sure that Mary Lou was really as old as he said she was. How would he know? Still, nobody ever argued with Sam, and whenever they were sick, they would go not only to Doc Hawthorne, but also to Sam. Sam always gave the same advice: eat plenty of onions. He said that onions were good for digestion, the liver, the stomach, the lungs, the heart, and the brain. If you don't believe me, just look at old Mary Lou here. She's never been sick a day of her life. He also had many different ointments and lotions and syrups and pastes, all made out of onion juice and different parts of the onion plant. This one cured asthma. That one was for warts and pimples. Another was a remedy for arthritis. He even had a special ointment which he claimed would cure baldness. "Just rub it in your husband's head every night when he's sleeping, Mrs. Collingwood, and soon his hair will be thick and as long as Mary Lou's tail." Doc Hawthorne did not resent Sam. Gotta fix the hair there. The folks of Green Lake were afraid to take their chances. They would get regular medicine from Doc Hawthorne and onion concoctions from Sam. And after they got over their illnesses, no one could be sure, not even Doc Hawthorne, which of the two treatments had done the trick. Doc Hawthorne was almost completely bald, and in the morning, his head smelled like onions. Whenever Catherine Barlow bought onions, she always bought an extra one or two and would let Mary Lou eat them out of her hand. "Is something wrong?" Sam asked her one day as she was feeding Mary Lou. "You seem distracted." "Oh, just the weather," said Miss Catherine. "It looks like the rain clouds are coming in." Ah, me and Mary Lou, we like the rain, said Sam. I like it fine, said Miss Catherine as she rubbed the donkey's rough hair on top of his head. It's just that the roof leaks in the schoolhouse. I can fix that, said Sam. What are you going to do? Catherine joked. Fill the holes with onion paste? Sam laughed. I'm good with my hands, he told her. I built my own boat, and if it leaked, I'd be in trouble. Catherine couldn't notice, but helped to notice his big, strong, firm hands. They made a deal. He agreed to fix the leaky roof in exchange for 6 jars of spiced peaches. It took Sam a week to fix the roof because he could only work in the afternoons, after school let out and before night classes began. Sam wasn't allowed to attend the classes because he was a Negro, but they allowed him fix the building. Miss Catherine usually stayed in the schoolhouse grading papers and such while Sam worked on the roof. She enjoyed what little conversation they were able to have, shouting up and down to each other, and she was surprised by his interest in poetry. When he took a break, she would sometimes read a poem to him. On more than one occasion, she would start to read a poem by Poe or Longfellow, only to hear him finish it for her from memory. She was sad when the roof was finished. Is something wrong? He asked. No, you did a wonderful job, she said, but it's just the windows. The windows won't open, and the children and I would enjoy a breeze now and then. I can fix that, said Sam. She gave him 2 more jars of peaches, and Sam fixed the windows. It was easier to talk to him when he was working on the windows. He told her about his secret onion field on the other side of the lake, where the onions grow year-round and the water runs uphill. When the windows were fixed, she complained that her desk wobbled. And I can fix that, said Sam. The next time she saw him, she mentioned, the door doesn't hang straight, and so she got to spend another afternoon with him while he fixed the door. By the end of the first semester, Onion Sam had turned the old, rundown schoolhouse into a well-crafted, freshly painted jewel of a building that the whole town was proud of. People would be walking by would pause to admire it. That's our schoolhouse. It shows how much we value education in Green Lake. The only person who wasn't happy with it was Miss Catherine. She'd run out of things needing to be fixed. She sat at her desk one afternoon listening to the pitter-patter of rain on the roof. No water leaked into the classroom except for a few drops that came from her eyes. Onions, hot, sweet onions, Sam called out on the street. She ran to him. She wanted to throw her arms around him, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. Instead, she hugged Mary Lou, the donkey's neck. Is something wrong? He asked her. Oh, Sam, she said, my heart, it's breaking. I can fix that, said Sam. She turned to him. He took both of her hands and kissed her. Because of the rain, there was nobody else out on the street. And even if there was, Catherine and Sam wouldn't have noticed. They were lost in their own world. At that moment, however, Hattie Parker stepped out of the general store. They didn't see her, but she saw them. She pointed her quivering finger in their direction and whispered, God will punish you. Chapter 26. There were no telephones, but word spread quickly through the small town. By the end of the day, everyone in Green Lake had heard that the school teacher had kissed the onion picker. Not one child showed up for school the next morning. Miss Catherine sat alone in the classroom and wondered did she lose track of the time or the day of the week? Perhaps it was Saturday. It wouldn't have surprised her. Her brain had been, and her heart had been spinning since Sam had kissed her. She heard a noise outside the door, and then suddenly a mob of men and women came storming into the school building, and they were led by Trout Walker. There she is, Trout shouted. That's the devil woman. A mob was turning over desks and ripping down bulletin boards. She's been poisoning your children's brains with books, Trout declared. And they pulled all the books into the center of the room. Oh, think about what you're doing, said Miss Catherine. Someone made for a grab for her, tearing her dress, but she managed to get out of the building. She ran to the sheriff's office. The sheriff had his feet up on the desk and was drinking from a bottle of whiskey. Morning, Miss Catherine, he said. They're destroying the schoolhouse, she said, gasping for breath. They'll burn it to the ground if someone doesn't stop them. Just calm your pretty self on down for a second, the sheriff said in a slow drawl, and tell me what you're talking about. He got up from his desk and sauntered on over to her. Trout Walker has... No, just don't be going and saying anything bad about old Charles Walker, said the sheriff. We don't have much time, said Catherine. You've got to stop them. Oh, you're sure pretty, said the sheriff. Miss Catherine stared at him in horror. Kiss me, said the sheriff. Miss Catherine stared at him in horror again. Kiss me. And she slapped him across the face. Ha! He laughed. You kissed an onion picker. Why won't you kiss me? She tried to slap him again, but he caught her by the hand. She tried to wriggle free. You're drunk, she yelled. I always get drunk before a hanging. A hanging? Who? It's against the law for a Negro to kiss a white woman. Well, then you'll have to hang me too, said Catherine, because I kissed him back. It ain't against the law for you to kiss him, the sheriff explained, just for him to kiss you. We're all equal under the eyes of God, she declared. The sheriff laughed. Then if Sam and I are equal, why won't you kiss me? He laughed again. I'll make you a deal. One sweet kiss, and I won't hang your boyfriend. I'll just run him out of town. Miss Catherine jerked her hand free. As she hurried to the door, she heard the sheriff say, The law will punish Sam, and God will punish you. She stepped back into the street and saw smoke rising from the schoolhouse. She ran down to the lakefront where Sam was hitching Mary Lou to the onion. Oh, thank God I found you, she sighed, hugging him. We've got to get out of here now. What? Someone must have seen us kissing yesterday, she said. They set fire to the schoolhouse. The sheriff said he's going to hang you. Sam hesitated a moment as if he couldn't quite believe it. He didn't want to believe it. Come on, Mary Lou. We have to leave Mary Lou behind, said Catherine. Sam stared at her a moment. There were tears in his eyes. Okay. Sam's boat was in the water, tied to a tree by a long rope. He untied it, and they waded through the water and climbed aboard. His powerful arms rolled them away from shore. But his powerful arms were no match for Trout Walker's motorized boat. They were a little more than halfway across the lake when Miss Catherine heard the loud roar of the engine. Then she saw the ugly black smoke. These are the facts. The Walker boat smashed into Sam's boat. Sam was shot and killed in the water. Catherine Barlow was rescued against her wishes. When they returned to the shore, she saw Mary Lou's body lying on the ground. The donkey had been shot. That all happened 110 years ago. Since then, not one drop of rain has fallen on Green Lake. So you make the decision. Whom did God punish? 3 days after Sam's death, Miss Catherine shot the sheriff while he was sitting in his chair drinking a cup of coffee. Then she carefully applied a fresh coat of red lipstick and gave him the kiss he was asking for. For the next 20 years, Kissin' Kate Barlow was one of the most feared outlaws in all the West. We're going to pause there. That was crazy, wasn't it? that was something you just would not necessarily expect that. So it was a really tough time, and so we kind of get a little bit of a feel of the backstory of whoop, sorry sorry guys, a little bit of the backstory of Kissing Kate Barlow, which is really sad. And so they so it was just really a sad time, and so we're going to see how that kind of affects the future, but you can kind of see definitely what happened in the past. Now, on a different note, on a happy note, everybody stand up. We're going to be doing our Schoolhouse Rock, and we're going to be doing one of my favorite ones, and it is called Interjections. Let's see if we can get this up here.
When Reginald was home with flu, the doctor knew just what to do. He cured the infection with one small injection, while Reginald uttered some interjections. Hey, that's smart! Ouch, that hurt! Yeah, that's not fair! Giving a guy a shot down there! Interjections, hey! Yeah! Ouch! They're generally set apart from a sentence by an exclamation point or by a comma when the feeling's not as strong. Though Geraldine played hard to get, Geraldo knew he'd woo her. Yes, he showed his affection despite her objections, and Geraldine hollered some interjections. Well, you got some nerve. Oh, I've never been so insulted in all my life. Hey, you're kind of cute. Interjections, well, excitement, emotion, hey, generally set apart from a sentence by an exclamation point or by a comma when the feeling's not as strong. So when you're happy, hooray, or sad, or frightened, or mad, rats, or excited, wow, or glad, hey, an interjection starts a sentence right. The game was tied at 7-all when Franklin found he had the ball. He made a connection in the other direction, and the crowd started shouting out interjections.
Ah, you threw the wrong way. Darn, you just lost the game.
Hooray, I'm for the other team. Interjections, excitement, hooray! Generally set apart from a sentence by an exclamation point or by a comma when the feeling's not as strong. So when you're happy, hooray! Or sad, or frightened, or mad, rat, or excited, wow, or glad, hey! An interjection starts a sentence right. Interjections, hey, they're generally set apart from a sentence by an exclamation point or by a comma when the feeling's not as strong. Interjections, show excitement or emotion. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Darn, that's the end.
Isn't that a cute song? I just love that one. That is such a good one. That's one of my favorites. Tomorrow we're going to be doing some special Easter books. And remember, so that's Wednesday. It's Holy Week. Please remember that we do not have school Thursday, Friday, or Monday. So we will not be getting back to hold until Tuesday. So I left you at, a big part. Anyways, with that, it was so good seeing you. I love seeing you guys and hearing from you. And with that, let's have a great day.
Make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference in the world.
Let's see. See you later, guys. Have a good one.